On the 7th of June, Hello Games released their latest expedition, Singularity. According to Sean Murray, this expedition was the second chapter of a 4-part storyline, and this expedition would have ARG clues. But for the players that had been paying attention to their previous update, Interceptor, this was not surprising news. After all, it was Interceptor that had its first clue. In today's video, I wanted to go over many of these clues, see how they link up with existing lore, and what it means for the story and future updates. Before we jump into the deep end of this, be aware I'm not an expert on the No Man's Sky lore. I've always been very interested in it, but after the storyline of Ariadne kind of ended abruptly without any conclusion, I lost interest in it. So I had to do a lot of catching up, and most likely I will be missing things and perhaps interpreting them wrongly. But hey, you can always help me in the comments to clarify certain pieces of text. While Singularity has a lot of hidden messages, let us focus first on the information we can discover in the Interceptor update. With that update, we learned that certain planets had been taken over by dissonant sentinels, and the planet was covered with purple crystals. On those planets, we found harmonic camps, crashed sentinel ships, but more importantly, at least for this topic, collapsed mechanical beings called autophages. When interacting with these, we received a piece of a puzzle. Apart from some obscure message, we also received a binary code with the location of the character it would provide. For example, this one gave us the first 01010110. After collecting each piece of the puzzle, the message spelled out Void Mother. The same code can be found on the No Man's Sky website for the release of the Singularity Expedition. Again, spelling out Void Mother. So it seems Void Mother is the main theme. Now, who is the Void Mother? According to an archive describing Korvax's lore, the Atlantid is actually the official name, and Void Mother is what is used by lesser voices. A little bit further we can see that the Void Mother lived, the Prime. As this is a Korvax-based archive, the Prime means Korvax Prime. Now, in the Sentinel Pillar lore, there is also talk about the Korvax Prime and how it is destroyed. The first spawn took and took until there was nothing left in the sky, until there was nothing left but an abyss. Now, we are not talking about an emptiness. The abyss is actually an entity. And how do we know that? If we read further down in the Sentinel Pillar, you can see that the abyss is actually talking, and it's talking to Laylabs at a certain point. The abyss told me of a chance for salvation, even in the depths of horror and love. So this is not an emptiness, this is an entity. This entity used to be linked to Korvax Prime. Now, what is she? What is the Void Mother? According to one of the manufacturing terminals, the text described that this was a research station that had a vast array of scanners that was monitoring the water in the system, and it was searching for signs that were designated Abyss. Now, the workers concluded that the Abyss seemed to have a similar yet distinct energy signature to the Atlas itself. It was another power in the universe. This is how Telemon describes Korvax Prime in the Boundary Failure. Destruction of world. Artificial intelligence partially modeled after earlier forms of Atlas, destroyed, enslaved. So, the Void Mother is Korvax Prime, or a form of it, also called the Abyss or Atlantid. They are all one and the same entity. She seems to be as powerful as the Atlas, and contrary to belief, she was not destroyed with the destruction of Korvax Prime. Alright, with that now as our background information, we can now move on to the hidden messages in Singularity. There are quite a lot of encrypted messages in the Singularity Expedition, and while we could say hidden, most of them are in plain sight. One way we come across these is through these strange-looking vessels that appear when you disable your pulse drive. They are called Fragments of New Atlantis and share a coded message with you. In total, I found 8 of them. The first one I came across was this one, which translated in "We are a lifeboat." I think the fragment here is referring to itself, holding memories and echoes of Korvax Prime, especially after the fragment gives us an echo in the later stages of the expedition. When Korvax Prime was destroyed, which is one of the next messages we get from these New Atlantid fragments, the whole world burned, it was scattered throughout the universe, and while the first spawn gorged on the banquet of those fragments, it's pretty sure they were not able to get all of them. So I believe these Fragments of New Atlantis are lifeboats containing partially memories and echoes of Korvax Prime, which were part of the first convergence. Another message you will receive is this one right here. Translated, it means evacuation failed. lifeboats lost, all converted. I'm not entirely sure what this refers to. Evacuation failed and lifeboats lost most likely refers to the first spawn capturing all Korvax and enslaving them. But all converted could mean a few things. One meaning could be the first spawn melted their shells into nanites and other metals. Or another meaning could be the fact that the first spawn converted the Korvax into beings of flesh. In one of the GEC archives you can find a reference to this. The Korvax will be giving appearance modifications to make them appear flesh. Now, this is one of the few references to this, and it did make me wonder if the Korvax we know now are the same as the Korvax that existed in the beginning. Perhaps the Korvax appearance was more closely to Sentinels, or the construct Polo rebuilt in the Anomaly, and that would make their close relationship to the Sentinels and the Atlas make a lot of sense. One of the other messages will translate to "we will never see home again," which I think is very self-explanatory. The next one I came across was this message, which translated to "autopilot locked, reaching destination in error years." While this could be talking about Korvax being able to escape, as not all lifeboats necessarily were lost, I have a feeling this once again is referring to the vessel we are talking to. If they are one of the fragments that were scattered over the universe, they might be trying to return to the point of origin, perhaps with the goal of reconverging with other fragments. Alright, another message we can dig in a little bit deeper. This one here was translated as "life is never extinguished, the data remains, the will remains." While we could explain this spiritually, we should remind ourselves we are in a simulation. And that is even more clear as the term life and data are used in the same message. And to back that up, let us read some more lore on the Sentinel Pillar. We began to archive everything. Any settlement, anything that reminded our senses of Korvax Prime, its screams, its dissolution, anything that sounded like mining, like extraction, like murder. Now, archiving doesn't mean they were taking a note of, no, it meant something else. And that comes clear when you read further about Laylapse, because Laylapse says, "After my death, I fell to the world below all worlds. I too was archived." No, archiving means death. Sentinels were not taking any chances anymore. As soon they saw something that reminded them about Korvax Prime, that was straight into the archive, terminated. So comparing this information with the message from the Atlantid fragment, it is clear that the data, being it Korvax Prime, or its convergence, did not really die, but simply was stored into the archive. Two more messages can be found. These two messages, "A new Atlantid is coming, and out of nothing she will rebuild us," makes a lot of sense now, as it seems the Korvax Prime, or the Void Mother, never really was destroyed. And while from the perspective of the Korvax, or the Echoes, or whatever is linked to the Void Mother, it seems she is rebuilding them out of nothing, it is simply reconstructing data. Whew. Alright, I hope this made sense so far. I purposely have been avoiding going too much in depth in the hope to avoid confusion. There is so much lore that perfectly ties into this, but it would simply make this video extremely long. Are you ready for the next part? Okay. As said, the Void Mother is building something, but the question is what? Much of the answer can be found during the Singularity expedition, as many more encrypted messages are to be found. Each pilgrimage planet has been discovered by a code. Right there you can see it. 7765. Translated, this means "we." Now if you put all these planets in a sequence, you will find it says "we will build our own." Our own what? After talking with Nada, they sent you to a monolith which seems to be linked to the Atlantid. When conversing with them, you can find a hidden code between the lines. The code spells our own virgins. In the beginning, I assumed this was a spelling mistake and they meant our own convergence. But virgins does make a lot of sense when looking at its definition. The definition of virgins is the simultaneous movement of both eyes in opposite directions to obtain or maintain singular binocular vision. So when the message states, "we will build our own virgins," it means the Void Mother is building her own vision. Her own vision? Her own simulation? Is this how she aims to survive the Atlas? Remember when the Void Mother talked to Laylapse and told him of salvation? It told me of a way we might survive the end of all things. There are more references to this and of a 19th minute, but for the moment I want to keep that aside for another video maybe because I want to do some research before it. So let us talk about one more hidden message, and that is with the pilgrimage milestones. Each of them also has a code. If you line these up, you will see it spells, "We do not need you." At first I thought they were talking to us, the traveler, but it seems they are talking to the Atlas. The Abyss, the families of glass, we are in agreement. We will reconstruct the Creator. All travelers might be one again, the first, the last. We will do what the Atlas cannot or will not. In the form of null, the Abyss declares a means of escape. What the? She's planning on rebuilding the Creator. Seems like they're done waiting for the Atlas. They don't need them any longer. They will rebuild the Creator and with that a means of escape. Perhaps another simulation. There is so much more to unravel here and so much more messages and lore to link up to it. But this would simply make this video insanely long. I mean, we could talk about the travelers, how they are planning on putting them together, how Null is involved with that, how Telemon is involved with that. There is so much to cover on that. I think that might be a good thing to cover in a second video. And let me know if you found this interesting. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see a second part. If you enjoyed this, a thumbs up would be highly appreciated. And if you feel like digging into this yourself, or you would like to share your discoveries or speculations, then hop in our Discord where you can do just that. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Have an awesome day. Beeblebum out.